In the heart of the bustling city of Aldenport, there stood an old, still functioning train station known as Northgate Station. Though it was a hub of daily activity, the station carried with it a reputation for being haunted. Its history was rich, full of prosperity and eventually, tragedy. Northgate Station was constructed in 1902 and quickly became one of the busiest transit points in the region. Its grand architecture and elegant design made it a symbol of progress and modernity. But the station's prosperity was marred by a series of inexplicable incidents that began in the 1920s. One particularly harrowing event occurred in 1925. A steam train, known as the Midnight Express, was scheduled to depart at precisely midnight. The train was packed with passengers, eager to reach their destinations. However, on this particular night, the train failed to arrive. As the minutes ticked by, the crowd grew restless, and the station master, a man named Harold Wren, grew increasingly anxious. The train was nowhere to be seen, and the clock struck midnight with no sign of the locomotive. Just after the hour, the sound of a distant whistle echoed through the station, and the Midnight Express suddenly appeared, gliding silently into the station. The train seemed out of place. It was old-fashioned, with a dark, ominous sheen. The passengers disembarked, their faces ashen and their eyes vacant. The few who attempted to speak with them found only cryptic, unsettling responses before the passengers vanished into the night. The incident was dismissed by authorities as a mechanical error, but rumors began circulating about the Midnight Express being a ghost train. Those who saw the passengers claimed they were not quite human, but spectral figures who disappeared as soon as they left the train. From then on, Northgate Station became a focal point of ghost stories and supernatural speculation. Despite its eerie reputation, Northgate Station continued to operate. The trains ran on schedule, and life seemed to go on. However, strange occurrences persisted. Train conductors spoke of hearing voices from empty compartments, and station staff reported seeing fleeting shadows in the periphery of their vision. The station's old clock, though meticulously maintained, would occasionally chime at odd hours, particularly around midnight. In the present day, Northgate Station was a busy transport hub, but its past lingered in the minds of those who worked there. Emma Morris, a young journalist with a keen interest in the paranormal, decided to investigate these eerie claims. She was fascinated by the ghostly legends associated with the station and wanted to uncover the truth behind the spectral rumors. Emma's investigation began with interviews of current and former employees. She collected stories of strange occurrences, from sudden drops in temperature to inexplicable malfunctions of electronic equipment. One night, a retired station master named Robert Hughes recounted a particularly unsettling experience. He described an incident in which he had been alone in the station after hours when the Midnight Express had arrived once more. He had seen the train pull in and the spectral passengers disembark, only for the train to vanish as abruptly as it had arrived. Armed with these accounts, Emma decided to spend a night alone in the station to experience the supernatural for herself. She arrived just before midnight, equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and a strong resolve. As she set up her equipment in the empty waiting area, the station seemed unusually quiet. The usual hum of activity was replaced by an oppressive silence. As the clock approached midnight, Emma felt an inexplicable chill in the air. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the lights flickered. Emma's audio recorder picked up a faint, eerie whistle, similar to the one described in the stories. Her heart raced as she prepared herself for what might come next. At the stroke of midnight, a sudden rush of cold air swept through the station. Emma's flashlight revealed a shadowy figure moving along the platform. It was a tall, indistinct shape, seeming to waver between the physical and ethereal. Emma followed the figure, her camera capturing images of the apparition. The figure led her to a deserted train car, which was strangely illuminated despite the station's power being off. Emma entered the train car and found it empty, but a strong sense of melancholy filled the air. The seats were covered in a fine layer of dust, yet they appeared to have been recently occupied. She noticed an old-fashioned luggage tag on one of the seats, with a name written in faded ink, Eleanor Wood. The name struck Emma as significant. She had read about Eleanor Wood, a young woman who had vanished mysteriously in the 1920s, rumored to have been a passenger on the Midnight Express. The details matched perfectly with the legends she had been investigating. As Emma delved deeper into the mystery, she uncovered more about Eleanor Wood's tragic fate. Eleanor had been engaged to a man who had died in a railway accident, and she had been on the Midnight Express to meet him one last time. The train had never reached its destination, and Eleanor's body was never found. It was believed that her spirit, along with the souls of other passengers, was trapped in the train, bound to travel eternally. Determined to help, Emma arranged for a séance to be conducted at the station, seeking closure for the restless spirits. During the séance, the spirit of Eleanor Wood made contact. She expressed her sorrow and the desire for her final journey to be complete. The séance provided a sense of peace, and the spectral presence seemed to wane. From that night on, the supernatural occurrences at Northgate Station became less frequent. The Midnight Express was no longer seen, and the atmosphere in the station grew more tranquil. Emma's investigation had brought a measure of closure to the restless souls, and Northgate Station continued to serve its daily commuters without the same sense of foreboding. Though the ghostly train had faded from view, the story of Northgate Station remained a haunting reminder of the city's past. For those who knew the history, the station was a place where the boundary between the living and the dead had once been perilously thin, and where the echoes of a bygone era could still be heard in the whispers of the past.